We're here for our monthly investment banking recruiting Q&A. So we should be going live in several different places. We should be on my LinkedIn. Always let me check if that's working. We should also be going live on my YouTube channel. And let me just make sure we're there. Okay, we're live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube, and we should be going live on our Facebook page and Facebook group. So if you guys are live right now on this, do me a favor and just drop something in the comments like hashtag live or something so that I know you guys can hear me. Because the last thing I want to do is sorry, my dog is barking. There must be someone at the door. But the last thing I want to do is be talking to myself for the next hour when you guys can't hear me. Believe it or not, that has happened before. Let me also try to go live here on Instagram because we also do get a lot of people who log in on Instagram. So give me 1 second to get that set up. So investment banking recruiting Q&A. All right. So we are also live on Instagram as well. Cool, awesome. So it looks like we're live everywhere. So if you guys have any questions about anything investment banking recruiting related, feel free to just drop your question in the comments. No matter what platform you're on. If you're on Facebook, you can comment on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, you can comment on YouTube. And if you are on Facebook, you can comment. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can also comment on LinkedIn. All right. And I will, basically what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to just try to go through as many of these questions as I can in the next hour or so. And just try to help you guys as much as possible. We do this about once a month. Now, obviously, I do these like on a weekly basis with the students that are in our program, but we understand that not everyone can be in our program, nor do we have the bandwidth to help everybody. And so this is kind of our way of helping the people that don't have the luxury of being in our program and working directly with us, and just still helping you guys out. So just so you guys know what we're going to be talking about. It's an interesting time right now of the year because, it's August of 2022 and there's a lot going on, no matter kind of like what year you are, right? Like if you're a rising senior right now, the junior summer internship for summer 2022 is just wrapping up. And so a lot of these firms are about to give out return offers. Some of you might have already even found out whether you've gotten return offers or not. A lot of you are probably thinking about whether you want to recruit for the full-time process. Which actually like it's a bit nuanced. Like it is different from the summer internship recruiting process. And I would say the full-time recruiting process is actually arguably even more difficult, believe it or not. And so if you have any questions about the full-time recruiting process, now would be a really, really good time to talk about it. The next time we do this Q&A, which would be early September, a lot of the full-time positions will have been filled, especially on some of the top banks. So make sure you get your questions in on that topic today. If you are a rising sophomore, which means you're the class of 2024 and you're still recruiting for summer 2023 internships, now is also a critical time for you because at this point in the process, most of the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks have finished recruiting for summer 2023. There are some exceptions to that. Like I know like Deutsche Bank still recruiting. I think Centerview obviously still recruiting. And there are like a couple other banks that may be recruiting here and there, but for the most part, those are done. So now you're looking at a lot of the middle market banks are being the ones that are left if you're still recruiting for summer 2023. So time is of the essence on that. And then obviously if you're a rising sophomore, you still have a bit more time. But even as a rising sophomore, if you're a class of 2025 and your goal is to recruit for a 2024 internship, summer 2024 internship, or even for a sophomore summer internship in the summer 2023, like some of those applications are open right now. And then for summer 2024, for your junior summer, we expect a lot of those applications to open up probably by before the end of this year. So like probably at some point in December of 2022. So you're about like 4 or 5 months out. And it's definitely not too early to start. If anything, like now is probably the perfect time to start if you haven't started preparing this. So no matter who you are, I say this is an interesting time of the year because now is kind of as long as you're actually serious about getting into investment banking, now is like a really critical time for you to think about what you need to be doing. So we're here to help you guys sort all of that out. For those of you that are new or you don't know who I am, just to give you a quick background introduction on myself, my name is Sam Shaw. I'm the founder of Wall Street Mastermind. We are basically the #1 investment banking, recruiting, coaching service, and professional network out there. We've worked with over 600 students to date. We consistently maintain an over 90% success rate in helping our students get into investment banking. In fact, our success rate is so high. We are the only company in our space that actually provides the option of having a money back guarantee. Okay, none of our competitors dare to offer something that crazy because getting people into investment banking is very, very difficult, right? And so we place students into every single bulge bracket and elite boutique bank over the years. About 89% of our students that are getting offers are getting into at least a bulge bracket, elite boutique, or middle market bank, which I define as a top 50 bank. These are very reputable, like global institutions that anyone on Wall Street has always heard of, or they're going straight to the buy side. Okay. This is despite the fact that only 45% of our students go to target schools, meaning more than half of our students do not go to target schools. And this is also despite the fact that 41% of our students that get offers have a GPA lower than 3.7, which means they do not have a competitive GPA when it comes to, at least what's considered to be competitive for investment banking recruiting. So all that is to say, I'm not here to brag, but all that is to say, we know a thing or two about the investment banking recruiting process. So again, we can't work with everybody. It is by application only. But if you have any questions that been wanting to get answers for, this is kind of your opportunity to get those questions in. Okay. So now, with that said, I see these questions piling up. I'm going to come over here to the queue and just start answering as many questions as I can and try to get to all these before we're done. Okay, I'm going to be on here for probably the next hour or so before I have to hop off. All right, so actually, let me start over here on Instagram first, and then I'll make my way over to LinkedIn and YouTube and also Facebook as well. All right, so real quick on Instagram, Jay Horcon16, what should I do sophomore year as a non-diversity candidate? Yeah, if you're not a diversity candidate, obviously you don't qualify for the diversity programs, but there's still plenty of other internships that you can get. Usually like the best options are to go to like a regional boutique investment bank, or maybe a private equity firm. There are a lot of other things you can do though that would be considered to be highly relevant. You can go to, you can do like search fund internships. You could do equity research. You could do corporate development. You could do valuation. You could work at a family office, hedge fund. Like, so as long as you're doing something that's, where you're getting transactional experience, or you're also getting, you're having to like analyze or look at companies, on like one by one, and like, figure out like how much they're worth and what is their valuation and what do you think an appropriate stock price is for that company, then I would say that's easily considered a highly relevant experience. So it does not have to be, a diversity program from one of the top banks out there by any means. Okay. HTF TACC asks, is this a scam? Yeah, I mean, great question. They are definitely people out there that claim this is a scam. If you go online, search this up, you can go do your own research. But what I will say is this, right? You can judge for yourself, by the way, by just, sitting in on this Q&A session, hearing what I have to say, see if I know what I'm talking about, and then kind of like decide for yourself. That's the first thing. But second thing I will say is, typically when you hear people talk about like, oh, this company is a scam or whatever, like most of the argument is not that we're actually a scam. Most people are just saying like, oh, they think we're really expensive, or they think we're overcharging because all the information that you ever need is already on Google. Like, why would you ever pay for help to get a job like investment banking if you could just Google everything and get the job on your own? That's like their definition of a scam. And so like most of these people, they say that because they've actually never gone through our program. And so it's hard for them to imagine what it is that we do inside our program that's so different. All I can tell you is this. First of all, we have a demo video that you can get access to if you want to actually like get the detail behind the curtain, look at like all the things that we do in our program. And I think like once you watch the demo video, you will actually see just how different our program is from like everything else that most people are typically doing. But like, even if you don't do that, like our success rate speaks for itself. Like it's over 90%. And you're like, oh, that's BS. There's no way you have over 90% success rate. It's like, we offer a freaking money back guarantee. Like, so if we don't get you in, we have to refund you your money. And so if we're having to issue a lot of refunds, like this is like a labor intensive, high touch business where we're spending a lot of time with our clients, like we would just go out of business. Like that would just not be a sustainable business model. So like no company out there that actually is like out to like scam people will offer a money back guarantee. And we sign a contract that says we will refund you if you don't get the job. Right. And so like, that's all I have to say about it. Like, I don't want to spend all the time here, like just, talking about like, why you should sign up for our program. Like, that's not what this is for. Like, this is for me to just like answer your questions and, again, try to give back to the people that, even if you don't join our program, that's fine. But like, for those of you that are actually interested in joining our program, I encourage you to go check out our demo. I encourage you to go poke through our website. I encourage you to go look through the hundreds of testimonials that we have on our website from students, from parents. We have like, 30 to 60 minute like podcast style interviews where you can actually hear from successful upperclassmen that have already gone through the recruiting process and recruiting into some of these top banks and hear what they have to say. And you just like see for yourself, like see it for yourself and see what you believe. Who do you think is telling the truth? Like the people that have already gone to the program, or like the people that have never done the program and they're just hating on it for no reason. Right. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Isn't rising sophomore class of 2025? Yeah. What did I say before? I don't know. Yeah, rising sophomore is class of 2025. So if that's not what I said, that is what I meant. Okay. We keep going. Do I sell my soul to investment banking? Is it worth it? You gotta decide for yourself. So this actually blah blah blah. Sir, thank you so much for asking me to do. Cool. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore all the bot comments. Can you talk about your own experience in undergrad? So in terms of experience, I mean, what specifically do you want to know about my experience? Like I went to Cal, I majored in business. I had probably like a 3.5, 3.6 GPA, so it wasn't stellar. I did join a business fraternity, which helped me a lot. And then I interned my junior summer at Bear Stearns, which I guess used to be considered a bulge bracket bank, maybe like a lower tier bulge bracket bank. Some of you might be too young to know what Bear Stearns is, but it was the bank that was the first bank to go under for the subprime mortgage crisis back in 2007, 2008. I actually interned there the summer of 2007. And literally when I was at my internship was when their two hedge funds collapsed due to mortgage-backed securities. And it was all over the news. And as a result of that, like, none of us got offers to go back for full-time. And so I had to actually recruit for a full-time offer going into my senior year for 2008, which is like obviously one of the worst times to recruit. Like a lot of people are worried about the market conditions right now and how it's going to affect the jobs out there. And like my whole thing is, dude, like I recruited in 2007, 2008, and there were still jobs even back then. So like, I don't think things are nearly as bad as they were back then today. Right? I'm not saying things are as good as they were like a year ago or two years ago, but things are definitely not like so bad to the point where like you should not be able to get a job, right? If you're approaching this the right way. So anyway, I recruited for full time, got a ton of rejections. It's really, really hard to recruit, by the way, if you don't have a return offer from your summer internship, because then it kind of scares people off. They're wondering like, is something wrong with you? Like, were you a bad intern? So I probably got like rejected by 20 plus banks when I first tried to recruit for full time, but just kept going, never gave up. Ultimately ended up getting an offer from Deutsche and also got an offer from Jefferies. Back then, I probably like ranked Deutsche before Jefferies. Today, I probably, kind of ranked them the other way around actually, but decided to go with Deutsche, did my first year there, and then later lateral to Morgan Stanley and did 2 years at Morgan Stanley Tech, which is always one of the best tech groups on Wall Street, and then later went to private equity. Okay, so that's kind of like the quick rundown about my experience. Hopefully that makes sense. Bola asked, what made you want to somewhat switch career fields from being in the field to more of an education / tutoring inside of IB? Well, I would love to get into that with you. And I know like, I think like we've messaged and talked before, like feel free to message me about that. And um, I'm happy to tell you like my personal story and why I've done the things I've done. I would say like part of it is, I have made a lot of money, from, both finance, obviously banking and PE, but also like even more so like the couple tech startups where I joined. And it's like one, I had the financial capital to be able to take a risk and go out and start a business. And a lot of people want to start businesses, but they don't because they have to worry about their paycheck. I didn't have to do that, right? So that was one. But two, also like it's a more personal story that has to do with like me meeting my wife and us living in like basically two opposite sides of the world and being long distance and wanting to be in the same place and me just like wanting to start a business that will give me like location freedom, basically. Like I want to be able to work from anywhere, right? And so like there's a lot more that goes into that. I'm not going to get into that here because I don't think that's like super helpful for the people that are on this call. But if you want to know more about it, happy to tell you. It's probably like a 5 to 10 minute long story. Okay. Um, 10 crux to banks, dislike 24-year-old plus interns. I'm 21, so just curious. Not sure why it's relevant if you're 21. So 24 is a bit old for interns for sure, but it's not unheard of either. All right. Let me go over to some of the other platforms. LinkedIn and YouTube. So people have a bunch of questions here. Abdul says, send you a private message. Okay, Abdul, I will check that after this, maybe later today after this call. Yador asks, City has opened applications since February for full-time for IB. Do you think there are still chances? What about other divisions within City? Yeah, I don't know about like having applications open since February, but like it depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking at an application that's open since February, that might be more of a lateral position, meaning like they're looking for experienced hires, like that are kind of like off cycle. But for the full-time recruiting, like right now, the full-time recruiting that's happening is for people that are going to graduate either in December of 2022 or in like around May or June of 2023. Okay, so like rising seniors currently who are in their last year of school. That's like what I'm referring to when I say full-time recruiting. And so like those applications mostly should have either like just opened up very recently or they're like about to open up. It depends on the bank. And some banks like JP Morgan, we know has like already started giving out super days, for example. So like there's definitely still a chance you get in for full-time. Like most of these banks are not going to start recruiting for they're not going to start recruiting for full-time until they know who's coming back from their summer internship class. So like their summer internship started in like early June. It's usually 9 to 10 weeks. So it's just about to wrap up now, like either this week or next week. Like most of these banks are wrapping up their internships and then they're giving out their offers and they know like who's going to accept the offer and who's not. And then based on that, they'll know how many spots they have left. And then they'll do full-time recruiting to go and try to fill those spots. Okay. So that's, so I would say like, it's definitely not too late for full-time recruiting, but like you do need to be like, on your A game. Like you need to stay on top of things and like, interviews are some of them, like I said, invitations are starting to go out, and even the ones that haven't gone out yet, they're going to start going out soon. So you got to be prepared. Okay. Abdul asks, can you help international students? Yeah, absolutely. We help international students all the time. The bar is higher for international students to get into banking because, not all banks sponsor. So there's like fewer banks you can actually choose from. And then like of the banks that do sponsor, the bar is also higher anyway for an international student because you have to make it worth their time to go through the hassle of having to sponsor you, right? Also, the one thing to keep in mind is like the international students that we can't help are like international students that are starting way too late. Like if you're starting after the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks and middle market banks, like I always like typically the top 50 banks are the ones that are like big enough and have like the infrastructure and the human resources to be able to like actually sponsor visas. So like you have to recruit while they're still looking for people. Like if you wait too long, and they're all done hiring already, and like it's only the small, regional banks that are left. Those banks don't typically sponsor visas, in which case, like, there's not going to be a whole lot that we can do for you. Okay. Sam asks best potential internships for freshman summer. So let's see here. So, best potential internship for freshman summer, I would say, it depends. Like if you're a diversity candidate, the best potential internship for freshman summer is like some of these big banks, like bulge bracket and elite boutique banks, they have like, freshman summer internships or sophomore summer internships, or sometimes it's not a full internship, but it's like a program for like diversity candidates. And so like that's usually like the best thing you can possibly get as a freshman. But like if you're not a diversity candidate and you can't get that, then I would say like the best thing you can get probably would be like an internship at a just like a small regional bank. But usually like if you want to work at a small regional bank, you're gonna have to build your way up to that. So it's not like you can just go from having no experience whatsoever to like working in a small regional bank, right? And so if you want to work at a small regional bank for your freshman summer, that probably means that you've started accumulating other relevant experiences even during your first and second semester of freshman year. So you've been building up your resume already, and then like you're leveraging those experiences to then get your freshman summer internship. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. All right. Hisham asked, what would you say are good bulge bracket firms that are typically available to apply for summer 2023 internships? That are typically available to apply for summer 2023 internships. Well, so like I said, I'm not sure what you're asking, but like if you're asking like what bulge bracket banks are still available and still recruiting right now at this point in time for summer 2023, the only one I know for sure is like Deutsche Bank, because they started later. I think most of the other banks are done. JP Morgan, I did notice that they reposted their summer 2023 job listing like a few days ago, like within this past week, which I thought was kind of interesting because I thought they were done already. Maybe they decided to hire more people. But like, as long as the application's up, if you haven't applied, I would certainly apply. You got nothing to lose by applying. I would go and honestly, I would look through like every single I would look through every single career page for the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks. If you haven't yet, and then like just see if their job postings are still up. Okay, so like for example, like there's this by the way, if you guys don't know who the bulge bracket and elite boutique banks are, or even like the middle market banks, I will look at, there's this list, you can look this up. It's all firsthand, but it's like best companies to work for, the most prestigious investment banking firms, and they rank kind of like the top 50 firms. I really like their methodology. You can look into what it is here. They basically survey like thousands of banking professionals, like 3,600 banking professionals that actually work on Wall Street. So these are like people that actually know what they're talking about. And there's just like people's perception of who the top banks are. I would say like most of the banks in the top 20 are, I mean, except for Jefferies, they're checking the middle market. But all the other banks in the top 20, and Houlihan's middle market, but everyone else, they're pretty much like bulge bracket or elite boutique. And then like below top 20, like then you're looking at like mostly middle market banks. These are like who I consider to be the middle market banks. All right. So like I will look on all their websites and just see like who still has summer 2023 applications open. And if they do, and you haven't applied yet, I would highly encourage you to apply. Okay. So let me X out of that. Jagger Lambert asks, hey, what's up, Jagger? I just am wondering if you think that because of the much lower M&A IPO deal volume and fees this last quarter, bulge bracket hiring / new slots will decrease for this upcoming year. Yeah, we're already kind of starting to hear that anecdotally. Like firms are definitely tightening like their hiring plans and probably cutting back on like how many people they were planning on hiring. So like that's for sure, right? But what I always tell people is like, you can't worry about the things that are not in your control, or like it's not productive to worry about the things that are in your control. Like we do not control what's going on in the macro environment. We do not control how much deal flow there's going to be. What you do control is like, how good of a candidate are you? How prepared can you be, right? And so like, I already said this earlier, but like I recruited in 2007, 2008 for full-time. Like there were probably way fewer jobs back then than there are now. Right. And even then I was able to get a job. And the way I would think about it is like, okay, during the good times, when the markets are good, maybe like the bar for hiring is like here. And so like, if you're like a candidate that's like this good, you are like, you make the cut, right? Because you pass the threshold. But let's say like now the market tanks, or, the Fed's raising rates, or inflation is going crazy, and stock market's dropping, and like deal flow slowing down, and now they're hiring less people. So now the bar to make the cut has been raised, and now the bar is up here, and you were only here before. Well, now you just went from here to here, and like now you missed the cut, right? And so like that just means that you were always a fringe candidate anyway, right? You used to make the cut by a little bit, and now you missed the cut. So like you can't worry about like where the bar is. What you can worry about is like how do you elevate yourself? How do you like make yourself into an even better candidate so that if you are up here and the bar goes from here to here, it doesn't really matter because the bar is still below where you're at, right? That's what I would be focusing all of your time and energy on. It does nothing to sit around and worry about what's going to happen in the economy. What's going to happen? Is there going to be a recession? Like whatever is going to happen is going to happen. Okay. And so it's like, we don't really worry that much about, like what's going on in the macro environment. Like, you know, we tell people like, we always, we consistently maintain over 90% success rate over the year. That's over like 4 different recruiting cycle. Our lowest year was like 2 years ago when COVID first started happening, when the market tanked and then like banks started cutting back on hiring. And that year we did drop below 90%. We were at 89%. So like, did it matter? Yes. Like, did it make things harder? Yes. Like, did our success rate go down? Yes. But like, it was still at freaking 89%. Right. And so like, that's why it's like, if you just control what you can control, if you do all the things you're supposed to be doing, like that stuff's just noise. Like, it doesn't matter. Okay. So, okay, let me go to the next question. Here on Instagram, Steven asked, yeah, does the current job market and recession worries affect job offers, etc.? I just thought of this. Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just answered that. So, yes, it does. There will be fewer jobs. We've already also heard like some banks that are giving return offers for the current summer intern class for summer 2022. They're giving less return offers, right? They're reducing like the number of full-time analysts they want to hire. So, yes, it has already started happening. Okay. Let's see what else. Justin Lowe, what criteria do you look for when considering potential client? Justin, honestly, like, all we are trying to figure out is like, are you someone that we can actually help? Like, are you someone we feel confident we can get an offer for? And when I say like, are you someone we're confident we can get the offer for? Like, it doesn't mean you have to go to Harvard and have a 4.0 GPA and already have a super stacked resume and blah, 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 blah. Like, we don't care about that, right? Like I said, over half of our students do not come from target schools. So we don't care where you go to school, right? 41% of our students have a GPA less than 3.7. I'm not saying like, I prefer you to have less than 3.7. I'm saying like, even if you do have less than 3.7, it's not a deal breaker for us, right? Like, we've helped people get in with as low as a 2.86 actually is like the lowest ever, right? But like, usually we'll say like anything below 3 is going to be too difficult. The person that got in with 2.86 has some other unique circumstances that allow her to do that. But regardless, it's a holistic review. We look at your school, your grades, your resume, where you're currently at in terms of like your interviewing skills, your networking skills. And a lot of times, like, even if you're horrible across the board, I don't want to say horrible across the board, but let's say like you don't know how to network at all, you don't know how to interview, and you don't have any relevant experience on your resume. Like, a lot of our students that get enrolled in the program are actually of that profile. But then like the biggest thing is like, do we have enough time left? Right? The worse you are as a candidate, the more time we're gonna need to get you to where you want to go. And so like, we're always taking the amount of time that you have left into account. This is why we always tell people like, the sooner you come to us, the better it's gonna be. Because if you come to us early enough, there's pretty much like, there's almost nothing we can't help you with, right? Like, I mean, we can't help you raise your GPA. Like, if you come to us with like a 2.0 GPA, like, sorry, like, there's not much we can do for you, right? So we will turn people away if the GPA is like extremely low, like below a 3.0. And like I said earlier, like, we'll turn people away if like, you know, you're an international student and all the banks that actually sponsor visas are already done. But for the most part, like, if you don't have any like crazy extenuating circumstances like that, and you still have enough time and you're willing to do the work, we also look for like, you know, how serious is this person in terms of the desire to get into investment banking. Because in our experience, like, investment banking recruiting is really, really hard. It's a grind. Like, if you're not dead serious about getting this job, or like, if getting this job is like, oh yeah, whatever, like, it's great if I can get it. If I can't, it's not a big deal. Like, I won't really care that much. Then like, you're probably not the right fit for our program. Like, anyone that's like joining our program, they're like dead serious about getting into investment banking. Like, this is their top priority and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get it, right? Like, those are typically the people that we love to work with. Okay. So like, hopefully that answers your question, but if you have more questions, Justin, like I think I think we're connected on LinkedIn. Like, feel free to just message me later or whatever. Okay. Okay. Sam says at a target Ivy non-diversity. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you're at a target Ivy, you're non-diversity, then yeah, like I said, it's the same answer as before. Like, probably just like a regional boutique investment bank or something like that. Jagger asks, is there a specific blog, podcast, or news site that you would recommend to keep up to date with news specific to IB that's not the BSJ, Financial Times, Market Watch, or others that most people know about? Honestly, there's a ton. But I mean, in terms of news site, there's so many, like Morning Brew. I know is a good one that a lot of people follow, but like there's so many of these now. Like Wall Street Oasis has their own, called like I don't know, some orange peel or some banana peel. I know Robinhood has their own newsletter. What else? New York Times has their own. It's called like Deal Books. There's just a bunch. Like, but I would just say like start with Morning Brew. Like Morning Brew is a great one. But like even if you just like for podcasts, like just go on like Apple Podcasts and just like type in the right search terms, and I'm sure you'll find something. Okay, but to be honest, like any of those would suffice. You don't need to like follow all of them, just follow like one or two of them and read it regularly, and like you should be able to keep up with the news. Okay. Let's go to the next question. So Sam says, Caesar says it is indeed a grind. Yep, that's right, Caesar. Sam says, I interned at a wealth management firm the summer after senior year of high school, and I hope to intern remotely at a search fund during my freshman year. Yeah, that's great, Sam. Like, I think you're doing all the right things, it sounds like. So search fund is certainly like, a good place to start, especially when you don't have a whole lot of experience yet. So Ziad asked, would a consulting internship freshman summer help at all with future IB internships? It can. Like, you can spin that somehow. It depends on like the specific roles and responsibilities that you have and like what you're actually doing. But like, I would say like it's not the most relevant thing. Like, there are certainly more relevant things you can be doing that are like more on the finance side, right? So like the question would be like, why would you do a consulting internship instead of a finance internship if your goal is to do investment banking? Unless like your goal is actually to do consulting, then obviously that would make more sense, right? Hisham asks, are cover letters important with within the application? To be honest, surprisingly, for most people, like cover letters actually aren't that important, especially for the bigger banks. Like for smaller firms, maybe sometimes they'll still read your cover letters, but like in our experience with bigger firms, like honestly, they get so many applications, like they do not read your cover letters. Okay, so like if you don't believe me, let me see if I can find where's the article I'm looking for. Here we go. So look at this article. This is from April, so this is from like a few months ago. Goldman Sachs had a record 236,000 students apply for internships. That's worldwide, okay? And then like 79,000 alone in America. And the acceptance rate is just 1.5%. So like, why am I showing you this? Well, the point is, when they have this many applications, do you really think they're sitting there like looking at each person's cover letter or reading each person's cover letter one by one? Like, hell no. Like, they're not doing that. They don't have time to do that. Okay. So our experience is that most firms, they don't read the cover letters at all, to be honest. So yeah, they're not super important, but like obviously, like if a firm asks for one in their application, I would still recommend that you have one. You still want to make it good. I'm not saying like it's necessarily important to like get you the interview, but sometimes what will happen is after you got the interview and you're sitting in that room interviewing, the person that's interviewing you will have your like application materials in front of them, and they'll have your cover letter, and they might read it at that point, and then they might like pick out certain things from the cover letter and ask you about it. So I'm not saying like it's completely useless, but like your resume is way more important, and even your LinkedIn profile is way more important than your cover letter as well. Okay. Eric asks advice for lateraling into IB. Eric, it depends on like where you're trying to lateral in from. Like if you're trying to lateral in from what's that, ideally you're trying to lateral in from like a highly relevant industry. Well, when I say highly relevant, it doesn't have to be that relevant. Like ideally you're working like somewhere within finance. Okay, so like we've helped people lateral in from accounting, like people doing audit at Big Four, like KPMG and PwC and things like that. We've helped people lateral in from like very small valuation firms. We've helped people lateral in from corporate development, sales and trading, corporate banking. We help people lateral in from FP&A. We even help people lateral in like this guy more recently. He was like, it's called an account manager at S&P Global, but really it was like he was like IT support, basically. Like, you know, people buy software from S&P Global, like these banks buy software, and then they don't, like, if they have issues or bugs with the software, then they reach out to him and he helps us. So it's like actually not very relevant at all. And then we helped them pivot over into like a small private equity fund in like a very short amount of time. So like bottom line is like ideally you're working in like an industry that's like at least somewhat tangential to banking. So and the key is like you got to take the experiences that you've already had and be able to like spin that in a way so that it sounds, you know, as relevant as possible. And you also have to be able to explain like why you're only making the lateral move now and like why didn't you just go in banking in the first place, right? And so like a lot of that stuff is like you have to be real, like even more so than just like your regular candidates. You have to really have your behavioral stories down, like super well. Like they have to like make a lot of sense, and you have to be able to convince people to hire someone like you versus say like just hiring someone else who maybe is already working in banking but just at a smaller bank, right? And so like that's honestly something we have quite a good amount of experience with. And so, you know, if you feel like that's something that you want to do and you don't know how to navigate through the process yourself, like feel free to reach out and see if we can potentially help you. Okay. A lot of networking is going to be required too, but that's always the case no matter what when you're recruiting for investment banking anyway. Okay. Hisham asks, would you cater your resumes for an internship around the descriptions available on the job board? Yeah, I mean, sure, you can do that. Like that's like kind of what a lot of people recommend people do. So yeah, I mean, I'm not against that, but like honestly, when you're writing the description of what you've done during your internships, like the more important thing is to write about. Yes, you want to write about things that are relevant, but also like you need to write about things that you're actually going to be comfortable talking about if you actually do get the interview. Like once you're in the interview, if I look at your resume as your interviewer and I like see a certain bullet and I ask you about it, like, are you going to be able to speak to that intelligently? Like what you don't want to do is just like try to stuff your resume with a bunch of keywords that you saw in the job description. And like, it doesn't even make sense to you what the bullet point means, or you don't even know what you would say if you got asked about it. Like, that's just like shooting yourself in the foot. Right. So, as much as possible within like reason, yes, try to make your resume sound as relevant as possible, obviously, but like that's not the only thing that matters. Okay. Let me go to the next question. So the next question is from Holden. He says, tips for acing higher view. I find something about talking to a camera unsettling as opposed to a live interview. Yeah, Holden, a lot of people encounter this, to be honest. And so honestly, it's just practice, right? Like if you have trouble talking to a camera, what you can actually do is practice talking into a camera, right? You can record yourself using something like Zoom, or there are plenty of other apps where you can just like record yourself. So using Zoom or Loom or whatever videos you want, and just like get used to doing that, right? And like as is the case with anything else, like it's muscle memory, and like if you do it enough times, it won't be weird anymore, right? And honestly, like it's really not that different. It's just in your head. Like talking to a camera is not really that different from talking to a person. Like it shouldn't change your answer. It shouldn't change your delivery. Like I'm talking literally into a screen, into a camera right now. Like I can't see any of you as I'm sitting here talking to you, right? But it doesn't really change anything in terms of what I say or how I say it, right? Now, with that said, I think actually like what's the most difficult about acing higher views for most people is actually the fact that you're seeing the questions for the first time when you first like take the higher view. So like, you know, you log in, you click through like the invite, and then like they like show you the question on the screen, and then they give you like a very short amount of time to think about your answer, and then they give you like 1 or 2 or even just 3 attempts sometimes to like record your answer, and the answer is also timed, so there's a time limit that you can't go over. And so by placing all these constraints on the higher view, it actually creates a lot more pressure because you're having to like really think on your feet, and you don't have a whole lot of time to like rehearse your answers. Right now, the few ways to combat that is like, one, if you're preparing for your behavioral answers the right way, you should have like good examples of stories that you want to use already. That to the point where like, no matter what they ask you, if you prepare the right way, like you should have like an example that you should come up with on this. You're not coming up with it on a spot. You already came up with it ahead of time. And it's an answer that you've already practiced. And you might have to like tweak little things here and there just to make it fit the prompt better. But like if you have the same framework, or if you know the right frameworks, you just follow the framework and it doesn't really change that much. So that's like the bare minimum that you could be doing. That's like first level. Like for our students specifically, I don't know if I should even say this publicly right now, but I'm just gonna say it because like I don't want people to find out about this and then like, you know, have this be taken away. But there are ways to actually like figure out the exact higher view questions that you're getting. Because right now what what higher views are doing, or what a lot of firms are doing, is a lot of firms used to give like the same higher view questions to every single student. And so like JP Morgan will have like the same questions that every JP Morgan applicant will get, for example. So when that was happening, what you could do is like wait for someone else to take the higher view first, and then try to find out from other people what questions they got asked, right? Then you can like prepare the answers ahead of time. Now firms are getting smarter and they're starting to like randomize the questions that they give to students. So like there might be like a question, there might be like a database of questions that's like maybe like 20 different questions that they rotate through. And then each candidate only gets 3 to 5 out of the 20 questions, right? And so now it becomes a little bit harder because you don't know exactly what questions you're going to get, but actually there's like ways you can kind of like hack around that to figure out, literally see the exact questions you're going to get ahead of time, down to how many seconds or how many minutes they give you to prepare for each question, how many attempts you have for each question, and how long each answer is allowed to be. So you basically get all the parameters before you even take the test. And so like, that's like, I'm not gonna like reveal the secret sauce here, but like, that's like something that we teach, just like one of the many things we teach the students in our program, for example. And by knowing how to do that, and by the way, this is why I laugh when people are like, oh, this is a scam. Like everything they teach in the program is just like stuff you can already find on Google. It's like, okay, good luck. Go find that on Google. You're not going to, right? The only reason we know how to do this is because we've done this process hundreds and hundreds of times. We've helped over 600 students, and inevitably through a lot of trial and error and just through sheer experience, we discover these things that most people would never discover on their own, right? That's like the value of experience. It's not like, oh, I'll just go Google it, or I'll just go find it on YouTube. Like, you're not going to, right? So, but regardless, think about it. If you can actually know the exact questions that you're going to get asked before you take the higher view, then what we have our students do is, okay, now they can go and prep. They can draft out the exact answers they want to use for the higher view. Then they can actually even submit their answers, their drafts to us, and we'll help them edit their answers. And we actually go in, and it's like, we'll go in the Word document, we'll help them rewrite the answer and make it perfect, right? And then once that's all been fully vetted and we've polished it, we made it sound really eloquent, then they're going to go and rehearse that answer and do what I said before, is that you can rehearse the answer into just like, you know, a video recording of yourself. You can talk in a Zoom, you can do whatever, you can see how you look, you can change the things that you don't like. And then once you've done that enough times and you feel super confident, then you go start the higher view, and then you do the real takes. Now, if you could do that, like, it would be way less intimidating, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you get to speak on the camera if you're just like super prepared, right? So like, that's just like one of the many examples, honestly, for like how our students can get a leg up on other people because they know how to do stuff like that, right? And they have the resources available to give them the feedback they need to make their answers perfect before they actually take the test. Okay, so anyway, hope that helps. Let me go to the next question. Sandra says, hey, Sam, what should students do in their freshman year to increase their chances of getting internships? Sandra, so usually like freshman year, obviously make sure you keep your grades up, make sure you are getting involved in extracurricular activities at school, especially for like the relevant organizations. If you're like wanting to do banking, you should probably join like, I don't know, the investment banking club or the finance club, or student-run investment funds. Like different schools have different offerings in terms of student organizations, right? So that helps. And then like, honestly, like the biggest thing is just like getting your foot in the door into like the first internship. So it's like, it's a chicken and the egg problem, right? Like, because most people say, well, I've been trying to get relevant internships, but I can't get relevant internships because nobody will hire me, and nobody will hire me because I don't have any relevant experience yet. But how am I supposed to get relevant experience if nobody will hire me? Right? So that's like that's where people get stuck. And so you have to figure out a way to like overcome or solve that chicken and the egg problem. Otherwise, like a lot of people just get stuck there. Right. And so I can tell you like the way to get your first internship most likely is not to do just what everyone else is doing and like going on LinkedIn, going on Indeed, going on what else, like, you know, all the other major job boards like Glassdoor, like Monster, like, and just like submitting applications to like, you know, the jobs that are being posted on there. Like most of those jobs get hundreds, if not thousands of applicants. It's super competitive. They're probably not going to have the best resume out of all the people that are applying. A lot of times you're going up against, you know, upperclassmen, juniors, seniors who have a lot more stuff on their resume. So it's like, there's just no reason to pick you. Right. So a lot of it also comes down to like you knowing where to look, which is also a big part of what we teach our clients in our program. Like on average, like our freshman clients, or even like just sophomore clients, junior clients, doesn't matter. Like our clients that come in that need to solve the chicken and the egg problem, and need help getting their first internship to like get their foot in the door. On average, once they learn our methodology, they're able to find something in just 1 to 2 weeks. Like it's not hard at all, right? So looking the right place is key. And then like you're gonna have to network with these people. Like if you're just applying and you're not networking with them, like chances are your resume is not strong enough. It's not going to stand out. And so you can't just like be super passive without it. You have to know like how to bring the fight to them. Does that make sense? So like those are some of the things I would focus on if you're just trying to like get your foot in the door initially and trying to get your first internship. Okay. Let me keep going. Your door says, is Cornell a popular target? Yes, absolutely. Cornell's an Ivy League school. Pretty much if you go to an Ivy League school, you are at one of the top target schools. Okay. I'm at the hotel school at Cornell. How does that look to recruiters? You know, obviously the hotel school is, I was like, being in their business program is probably better, but like hotel school is fine too. Like we've worked with students in the hotel school who have recruited into banking. Like the hotel school at Cornell is actually pretty famous and pretty strong. So that's not an issue. Like you're definitely still considered a target school student, even if you're in the hotel school. Okay. Graham from the Vault asks, are you Chicago and Northwestern targets? Yes, U Chicago and Northwestern are also targets. Those are also very good schools. And so yeah, those are awesome. Those are all target schools for sure. But like U Chicago and Northwestern, I guess the caveat there is like they're gonna be more target, they're definitely targets for like they're top targets for like the Chicago office, and probably not as much of a target for like the New York office. Doesn't mean you can't recruit into New York, but just that like a lot of the banks when they come recruit on those campuses tend to be like the Chicago offices because it's so close. So like that's something to take into consideration. Okay. Jonathan asked, would it be possible to work 2 part-time internships during the semester? More specifically, will the firms be open to you working both internships? Honestly, most firms probably would not like that. I have some people who do it, and when they do it, they probably don't tell the firms. And so this is kind of a gray area. Like if you really want to do that, like we should probably talk about it, Jonathan. Like, I mean, feel free to DM me and tell me what the exact situation is. But it is possible. I have seen it. I don't think firms like it. Okay. And sometimes like also like if you're working with 2 firms that are kind of like similar or both in like relevant industries, there can be a little bit of a conflict of interest as well. Right. Sam is saying hi to your door. Okay, that's cool. Eric says he's working in corporate banking. Yeah, Eric, so if you're in corporate banking, like that's definitely highly relevant to investment banking. So you can definitely lateral into IB if you want to. So yeah, reach out to us if you want help with that. Elias says tips for rising sophomores that don't qualify for diversity programs. I think someone else asked this question earlier already. Like if you don't qualify for diversity programs, that's fine. Then that just makes you like most of the other applicants. Like the people that qualify for diversity programs are, the small minority. That's why it's a diversity program, right? So if you don't qualify for diversity programs, they're like, just try to get relevant internships through other means, right? Like try to get into other, like I provide an entire laundry list of all the different industries or career paths or internships that I consider to be relevant. You can do any of those, right? And that's still fine. Okay. Mikkel asks, isn't Michigan State a semi-charter school? Michigan State, I would say, is a non-charter school. We've worked with students from Michigan State, and from everything they tell us, like it's definitely a non-charter school. They don't send a lot of people into banking. We've sent probably like 2 or 3 students from Michigan State into banking, but it's definitely not easy. And also, yeah, like same thing, because they're more in the Midwest. Like, I think it's a little bit easier to go to Chicago than to go to New York. Okay. Sandra asks, Sam, what's the ideal time for students to avail your course? What college year specifically? Sandra, honestly, like we tell people, like, the sooner the better, right? So like we've actually worked with like students of all years, really. We work with freshmen, sophomore, juniors, seniors. We even work with people that are recent grads. We have actually like a stats page. Let's see. We have a stats page that's a little bit outdated, but most of the data should still be directionally correct, which is we actually broke it down and looked at like how good of a result that people get based on like how early they join our program. And basically what you'll see is like people that join as freshmen, like the vast majority of them, like 24% are going to elite boutiques, 35% are going to bulge bracket banks, another 29% are going to middle market banks. These are, like the list I showed earlier, top 50 banks, 12% are going straight to the buy side. So like basically 100% from the people that start that early are getting into at least a middle market bank. Okay. But actually like 81% of them are doing at least bulge bracket elite boutique or going straight to the buy side. That's like insanely high, right? Then you look at sophomores, similar stats, but a little bit lower, right? I think 10% instead of 12, 22% instead of 24, 33% instead of 35. So like, you're looking at, what is this, 55, 65%, still 2 out of 3 students are going into at least elite boutique, bulge bracket bank, or the buy side. If you include the middle markets, that's another 31%, right? So that's what, 96. So there's 4% that are getting into regional boutiques. Juniors, right? Same thing, 4, 8, 25, 43, 20. So you just see like the later you start, the more the mix starts to shift from like elite boutique and bulge brackets down to like middle markets and regional boutiques, right? So like, no matter what, like we can get you into banking, but like the point is, the sooner you start, typically the better the offer is going to be, because the more time we have to be able to help you, right? So hopefully that answers your question, Sonder. Nashwan Khan says, great one. I'm not sure what comment you're referring to at this point, because I think I'm a little bit behind in terms of catching up to all the questions. So Yador says, Yador's not talking to me, but the other Sam. Okay, never mind. Nicholas says, any advice making a move from middle office to front office? Yeah, so Nicholas, I think that again is doable, but I would say it's a bit more difficult than like just lateraling in from like something that's like outside of banking altogether, but like still within finance. I think like advice number 1 is like, if you want to make that move, try to do it as soon as possible. The sooner the better. The longer you've been in the middle market, like the more you're going to get pigeonholed into like staying in middle market, and the more you're going to get like bankers are going to like kind of apply the middle market label to you. Like, oh, Nicholas is a middle market material, right? And like so the harder it becomes for you to like make that switch. But otherwise, like it's going to come down to you're going to have to network your butt off. Like you're going to have to like get really good at networking to get people to like even be willing to give you a chance. And then like your interview answers have to be really good. Again, it goes back to like your story. Like, why did you go into the middle market, or why did you go into the middle office? I kept saying middle market, middle office. Why did you go to the middle office and not front office in the first place, right? And the answer offices can't be like, oh, I just couldn't get into banking, so I settled for middle office. Like that's not a good answer, right? So like stories like that, you have to be, you have to have great answers prepared for that. You have to have a good answer for like telling me about yourself, walking through your resume, all the standard questions. And you want to try to like get as much relevant experience as possible, whether it's like, things you're doing on the job and trying to like spin that into being a bit more relevant, or like, doing stuff on the side on your own outside of work, that you can add to your resume that like, because one of the biggest questions is going to be like, elephant in the room is going to be like, well, can this guy do the job, right? Like, do you know how to, like, do financial modeling, for example? Like, do you like stuff like that? And so you have to be able to kind of like address those concerns. Okay. Eric says, Sam, advice for lateraling after sophomore internship or same as prior advice, work in investment bank, but not IB. Eric, so if I understand what you're saying, I think you're saying that you are doing a sophomore internship in corporate banking, and then you want to go for an investment banking internship for junior summer. Is that what you're saying? Like, because people use this term lateraling somewhat differently. Like when I say lateral, I'm talking about people that have already graduated and are trying to lateral into investment banking. It sounds like what you're saying by lateraling is you're actually still in school, but you're doing a corporate banking internship for your sophomore summer, and now you're trying to switch into junior summer. So I'm assuming based on what you're saying, you're a rising junior probably. So you're probably like class of 2024 and just finished up your corporate banking internship this summer. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. But if that's the case, then I would say, yeah, that should not be a problem at all in terms of you like switching over to investment banking. Like obviously, if you're a rising junior now, though, the summer 2023 recruiting process is happening in real time as we speak. So you should have hopefully already been recruiting for that, and already been applying and networking and interviewing. But if you haven't been, then it's not too late. If you've done a corporate banking internship for your sophomore summer, I would actually say that's pretty good for a sophomore summer internship. But like you just need to be able to like explain why you want to make the switch, and also like you need to jump on the recruiting process because like I said, like for summer 2023, a lot of bulge bracket and lead boutiques are already done. So now you're looking at middle market banks, and you probably like start like best case scenario, you get into one of the middle market banks, and then at the end of your summer internship, your junior summer, you can recruit again for full time if you want to go up to like a bigger investment bank, bulge bracket, elite boutique, whatever. Right, like that's probably what I would do. But okay, so Charlie Rank on Instagram asks thoughts on thinking of IB as more than just a 2-year plan to get into buy side activity. Charlie, are you asking like what do I think about if you want to stay in IB for more than 2 years, as opposed to just using it for like as a stepping stone into the buy side? Is that what you're asking? Like for my thoughts on staying in banking versus going to buy side? I mean, if that's your question, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's some people that do go into banking and then they love it and they want to stay. Like if that's you, like you love banking and you just want to stay in banking, then you should certainly do that. Like banking it can be a very rewarding job, right? It's very demanding, but like you're working on really big deals, really big companies. You're advising CEOs and CFOs constantly. It's not hard for you to feel like your work is important. You get paid a lot. And so there's a lot of things to like about investment banking, right? Obviously, like work-life balance is not the best, which is why most people don't stay more than 2 years. But like some people don't care. Some people love to work. Some people are workaholics, right? And some people just like they just care about like having the best career possible, and they're willing to make sacrifices for that. Like if that's you and you say, hey, I want to be a career banker, like by all means, you can do that. Like there are so many like senior bankers that I know that are super smart, super hardworking, super successful, and are just people that I really respect. Like not really the lifestyle that I would choose personally long term, because like, and also I have a family now, like I have a wife, I have 2 kids, like I want to actually have time for them to be around. But to each their own, right? Like if that's you and that's what you want to do, by all means you should do that, right? Camilo Ortiz asks how important is GPA. GPA is important, man. Like I always tell people like, ideally for banking, an ideal GPA is like 3.7 or above. If you have at least a 3.7, like typically no questions asked. If you have less than a 3.7, like obviously just the higher the better, right? Like the lower your GPA is, the harder it is to get into investment banking. But with that said, like I said, in our program, 40% of our students, over 40% of our students have less than a 3.7, but like, and most of them are still getting into investment banking. But I wouldn't say that's normal. The reason they're doing that is because they have our help and they're so much better than other people in all the other areas of recruiting. Like they're better at networking, they have better resumes, they are better at interviewing, and so it makes up for the flaw of having a slightly lower GPA, right? But just like the lower your GPA is, the more you're gonna have to make up for it by being better everywhere else. So it's definitely important. Okay. What would you recommend for a rising senior who has very limited experience trying to get into IB? Well, if you have very limited experience, if you have no relevant experience, then you need to hurry up and try to get some relevant experience. Like, obviously senior year is about to start. We work with seniors like that sometimes where, they come to us at the beginning of senior year and they don't have any relevant experience yet. In that case, like the first thing we would do is go and get them some relevant experience. You need to go out and get at least one relevant internship that you can add to your resume, that you can point to when you're applying, and also that you can talk about in these interviews, right? And then once you have that, then you want to like apply it as quickly as possible because you don't have a lot of time if you're already a senior, and you're gonna have to network your butt off. You're probably gonna start off at one of the smaller firms because like by senior year, most of the big firms are done recruiting. So you're gonna start off at a smaller firm, but like if you can network your way into an interview and then you're like ready for the interview and you pass it and you get that job, then like you can always switch again after 6 to 12 months. Just like I started my career at Deutsche Bank, and after 12 months, I switched to Morgan Stanley, right? Because I want to be at a better bank. So like your first bank does not have to be your last bank, right? So like that's usually the typical path that we would suggest for someone like you who's starting out late and doesn't have a lot of relevant experience. Okay. If you need help with that, like feel free to reach out to us. Like we have a lot of experience helping people like to do that. Okay. Nicholas Picardi coming back. Let's see what he's asking. I'm currently an intern at Barclays Global Market Operations. Would love to do another internship in SMT as a rising junior. Yeah, so if like you're just saying you're doing a sophomore summer internship in global market operations, and then like junior summer you want to like go for front office SMT, then yeah, like the same thing I said earlier all still applies. Okay, I would like encourage you to submit those applications, and you're gonna have to network your butt off to try to like move over to the front office. Okay. Sandra asks, do you have students who spend their first year in community college? Yeah, absolutely. We have students in our program that have started community college and then transferred to a four-year school. You cannot apply for investment banks from a community college, so you will have to transfer to a four-year school. But once you transfer over to a four-year school, then you can apply just like anyone else, right? But the only thing I will tell you is like, if you are a community college transfer, as much as possible, like I've seen some people that are able to transfer from community college after just 1 year, and so they still have 3 years of eligibility at the four-year school, versus like transferring after 2 years and then only having 2 years of eligibility at the four-year school. If you can keep 3 years of eligibility at your four-year school as opposed to 2 years, that is huge. Like that makes a huge difference because nowadays investment banking recruiting happens as early as halfway through sophomore year. So if you're transferring in as a junior, recruiting's already been happening for like the past 6 to 9 months by the time you're even transferred in. And then at that point, you're just starting to get access to like a lot of opportunities that you didn't have before, like access to relevant internships, access to like relevant extracurricular activities on campus and things like that. And then you start building up your resume. And like by the time you've done that, like all the board bracket, boutique, and middle market banks are done already, right? And so it's like, it's just unfortunately like recruiting starts so early now. Like if you're starting out late, it's going to be really, really tough. But one thing I have also seen some of our community college clients do is they transfer in as a junior and then they just like extend their graduation. So they graduate in like 4.5 years instead of 4 years. If you do that, then for recruiting purposes, you're effectively still going in as a sophomore, because now instead of recruiting for your junior summer internship, you can do a summer internship during your summer between your senior year and the extra semester that you're taking, right? So that's another thing to consider or keep in mind if you know that you're going to be transferring down the road, okay? And again, if you're looking for help with that, feel free to reach out to us. Like we have experience helping people who are starting off in community college break in. And you can actually like find some of the case studies for this on our website. Okay, so like I'll just show you. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. So if you, for those of you like, and this is a good segue, like for those of you that are wondering like, oh, can Wall Street Mastermind actually help someone like me with my situation? Like if you go to our website, wallstreetmastermind.com/student interviews main page. Okay, that's the URL. Or if you just go to the top, it's right here, testimonials, student interviews. You click on that, you scroll down. We got all types of different case studies for people with different profiles, and you can just go click into like whichever one you think is most relevant for you. Like if you're someone from community college and you're going to be transferring, we have this category here that for transfer students, right? And if I click into that, let's see here. Yeah, see right here, Ruxar, she started from community college. Who else? There are a few others here. June, he was also community college. Or actually, no, he transferred from UC Riverside to UC Berkeley. There's someone else I was thinking. Oh, Sandalina, community college transfer, right? Travis, community college transfer. So like, whatever your situation is, I would just go back and to this page and like, you can click on whichever category you want, and you can actually like hear these interviews from students just like you who have gone through the process. A lot of times, like you guys have these questions because you're worried that, oh, someone like me would not be able to get in, right? And you just need to be able to see someone else like you who has gotten in so that you can like remove that self-limiting belief that you have in your head, that self-doubt that you have about why you can't do this, right? People that tell you you can't do something, a lot of times they're not being malicious. They're telling you just what they know because they don't personally know anyone from community college that went into banking, or they don't personally know anyone from a non-target school that got in. They don't know anyone with less than a 3.7 that got in. They don't know anyone, blah, 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 blah. Fill in the blank on whatever your limiting belief is. The thing is like, doesn't mean they're wrong. It just means like, that's their view of the world because that's all they know. Well, we've seen so many students of all shapes and sizes, all walks of life, all types of background and profiles that have gotten into investment banking successfully. So we just tend to have a different point of view on what's possible and what's not possible, right? So hopefully that helps. And that page hopefully, gives a lot of you some encouragement and just inspiration on what's possible. Okay. All right. I know we're a little bit over time. I'll try to answer like one or two more. And I got to hop, but Camilo Ortiz asked, does investment banking look good for law school applications? This question might not be relevant. I mean, it can be. It depends on what kind of law. Like, I've seen people, go from investment banking into like law school and they want to become a corporate lawyer. Like, if that's what you want to do, you can certainly come up with like a logical story for that. But I will say, like, I don't think it's a common path. Like most investment bankers, in my experience, they think that they're better than lawyers. Like they think what they're doing is better than what lawyers do. Because like when you work on an IPO, when you work on an M&A deal, that's when you tend to work with lawyers. And typically in those environments, like the investment bankers are driving the deal, and then the lawyers just like kind of taking orders from the investment bankers, and then like they have to go out and do what the investment bankers tell them to do. And both jobs have long hours, both jobs are high paying, but it's like if you're getting paid a lot either way, why would you want to go from the one giving the orders to one taking the orders, right? And also just like, this is more me, and I'm not saying this is right, but like a lot of people feel like law is like a lot drier, right? It's not as interesting. Whereas like investment banking, the role, the work that you're doing is actually like can be very interesting. It's actually more strategic. You're analyzing these businesses and you're thinking about what makes them successful. You're thinking about what you can do to increase your share price, increase your shareholder value. Like that's, depending on who you ask, like can be pretty interesting, right? Whereas like the law, I don't know. I guess some people think law is interesting too, but I actually like initially wanted to be a lawyer and I switched. I was like, no, forget this. I'm going to go into business. So, and I don't regret that at all, right? So, let me see if there are any other questions. If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to ask them now. Otherwise, it looks like I've gone through most of the queue here. So if I have, then we can probably just check. Yeah, if you guys have last minute questions, feel free to drop them now. Otherwise, while we're waiting for that, again, I'll just say like, if you guys need help with investment banking recruiting, again, feel free to reach out to us. In fact, you don't even have to work with us. Like what we're offering is like, you can actually sign up for a free virtual coffee chat with one of our program alums. These are basically like currently upperclassmen who have already gone through our program. They've already finished recruiting. They've already gotten an offer from either a top bulge bracket or elite boutique bank. They were very successful in their own recruiting process. And we're just offering these free virtual coffee chats for anyone that just wants to like basically have a networking call with an upperclassman that's already been there, done that. And you guys can ask them whatever you want. You can ask them for their recruiting advice. You can ask them how were they able to get the offer at the bank that they got it from. You can ask them from, I mean, just whatever you want to ask, just like what you're doing right now with me. You can ask them all your questions. You can ask them about their experience in the program if you want. You don't have to, but just talk to them. And then after you talk to them, if you're like, okay, I want to do the program, I want to apply for the program, they can then help you set up a call with our team, so that you can actually speak to us and then apply, and we can see if you're a good fit, see if you're someone that we feel like we can help. If we feel like we can help you, then like I said, like we're the only company out there to offer a money back guarantee, which is like pretty much unheard of, right? So we're like guarantee you a job in investment banking or you don't pay us, right? But even if you talk to them and you decide, I don't really want to join Wall Street Mastermind, like, hey, then that's totally fine. Like you just, get some free advice. You got a free networking call out of it. You take whatever advice you got, you go out and implement it on your own, and that's all good, right? So like either way, we're just here to help. So if you guys want to do that, you can go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. The street's abbreviated to ST. That's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And then the other thing that I'll show you guys as a free resource in case you guys are interested is, and this is since you guys showed up to this. So like, if you go to our website, wallstreetmastermind.com, there's a free course up here, and there's other free resources you can download too, but like you can go to free course, and that's actually just like a free course that we offer for everyone. And there's like trainings in there that are actually from our paid program, which you can just like try out for free. Okay, so there's like free trainings for you guys on the house, basically. So I would encourage you guys to do that. But other than that, I think one more question did come in, so I'm going to answer that. For those who are planning to get your program, how can I reach out to you? Yeah, Sandra, I think I just answered that question, right? www.wallstmastermind.com/apply. Okay, www.wallstmastermind.com/apply. Or you guys can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Sam Shah, right? You see that in the bottom left corner of your screen here. And you can just find me on LinkedIn, and you can send me a connection request, message me. Happy to talk to you more there in the DMs. And that's pretty much it. All right, guys. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful. I know we went over time a little bit. We're going to do another one of these around the same time next month. Usually it's the first Tuesday of every month. So if you like this, you enjoy it, you want to show up for that, make sure to mark it down in your calendar. It's the same time on the first Tuesday of every single month. Okay, 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. All right. Otherwise, for those of you that I haven't met, it's good to meet you guys. For those of you that are going to reach out and talk to our team, we look forward to talking to you. And thank you guys for tuning in. Best of luck to all of you who are recruiting. And feel free to reach out anytime if you guys have more questions or need help with anything. All right. We're always here to help. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.